Scorpio, there's a version of you that already exists in the future, living the life you can barely imagine right now. This version looks back at you in this present moment and smiles with profound wisdom, because it remembers exactly what it was like to go through the change you're about to experience. It remembers the fear, the resistance, the feeling of dying inside while something new was being born. And it wants you to know something crucial. The change you're going through now isn't the end of you, it's the birth of your true self. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That feeling that your current skin no longer fits, as if you've outgrown the life you've been living, like a snake that needs to shed its skin. But the process is uncomfortable, vulnerable, frightening. You feel your old self falling apart, but you can't yet clearly see what's emerging in its place. It's like being in the midst of a metamorphosis. You're no longer a caterpillar, but you can't yet fly like a butterfly. You're in a cocoon, in darkness, in the total dissolution of what you once were. And this feeling terrifies you because Scorpio, more than any other sign, understands that real transformation isn't about superficial change. It's not about changing jobs, cities, or looks. It's about dying to a version of yourself and being reborn completely different. It's about losing everything you thought you were to discover who you truly are. And in this process, you feel naked, exposed, stripped of the defenses and masks you've always worn to protect yourself from the world. But here's what your future self wants you to know now. On the other side of this change lies a power you never imagined you could possess. A version of you so intense, so authentic, so magnetically powerful that it will scare even you at first. Because Scorpios don't make small or superficial changes. When you transform, it's a complete revolution, a rebirth that changes not only how you live, but who you are at your core. The future that awaits you after this change isn't comfortable in the conventional sense. It's not an easy life or one without challenges, but it is a life where you finally stop hiding, where you use your full power unapologetically, where your intensity stops being something you try to control or diminish so as not to scare others, and becomes your greatest strength, where you're no longer afraid of your own depth. You'll look people in the eye differently, no longer avoiding deep contact for fear of what you might discover. Instead, diving in completely, seeing through masks, perceiving unspoken truths, connecting on levels most people never reach. Your natural ability to read what's hidden, to sense what's unspoken, to perceive invisible motivations, all of this will be amplified after the change. But this power comes with a responsibility you're still learning to bear. Because when you become the most powerful version of yourself, some people around you will feel threatened. Your transformation will mirror to them everything they're afraid to change in their own lives. Your radical authenticity will expose the falsehood they've accepted as normal, and some will try to pull you back to where you were, not because they hate you, but because your evolution makes them uncomfortable. You already know how to handle the future. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your deepest levels. You've understood that your intensity is a gift to those who can receive it, not a curse that needs to be hidden. You've realized that temporary solitude is better than company that diminishes you. For Scorpios born between October 23rd and November 2nd, the shift happening now will primarily transform how you relate to power, both your own and the power you give others over you. You'll stop playing small so as not to intimidate anyone. For those born between November 3rd and 12th, the transformation is happening in the area of vulnerability. You're learning that showing your soul isn't weakness, it's supreme courage. And for those born between November 13th and 21st, the shift is about letting go of obsessive control over outcomes and trusting the process of dissolution and rebirth that comes naturally to you. But regardless of when you were born, all Scorpios are now experiencing the same phenomenon, the necessary collapse that precedes all powerful reconstruction. And it's terrifying because you can't control the process. You, who have always needed to maintain control over your intense emotions, your deep reactions, your complex inner world, are now being forced to surrender to a transformation greater than yourself. Scorpio, the change you're experiencing wasn't consciously chosen. It was summoned by your soul, which knew you had outgrown your previous level of existence and were ready to evolve, even if your conscious mind was still resisting. Your spirit called for this transformation because it recognized that you were suffocating in your old life, even when it seemed functional on the outside. Have you been having strange dreams lately? Dreams of death, destruction, apocalyptic scenarios? These aren't omens of external tragedy. They're internal symbols of the old ego's death process. Your unconscious is processing the transformation through powerful images because Scorpio change is never subtle. It's always dramatic, profound, and absolute. Have you been waking up in the middle of the night with sudden insights into your life? Sudden insights into patterns that have always existed, but that you've never seen clearly. This is the awakening process that accompanies your metamorphosis. As the old version of you dies, you gain access to levels of consciousness that were previously blocked. Scorpio, I know you're in the midst of chaos right now. I know there are days when you wake up and no longer recognize your own life. Days when everything familiar suddenly seems strange. Days when you look in the mirror and see a stranger staring back. And no one around you can fully understand what you're going through, because Scorpio transformation happens in invisible layers before it manifests externally. But there's a silent force building within you, a power that's being forged precisely in this process that seems to be breaking you. And maybe this is the first time someone is telling you that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're not losing your mind, that this isn't a crisis, it's a metamorphosis. I need you to recognize your own courage right now. Leave a comment saying, I'm being reborn, and it's both scary and empowering. It's not just a comment, it's a declaration of war against the old, limited version of yourself. It's you acknowledging that you're in the process, that you're not running away from it, that you're letting the transformation happen despite all the fear. And when you write this, you're signaling to other Scorpios who are also in this solitary process that they are not alone in this darkness of the cocoon. The future that awaits you after this change is one where you no longer need to explain your intensity, where you find people who can dive as deeply as you, who don't shy away from the depths of your emotions, who aren't frightened by how viscerally you feel everything. You'll attract connections into your life who operate at the same level of radical authenticity as you. And this will be surprising at first because you spent so long believing that your intense nature was too much, that your deep emotions scared people, that your ability to see through masks made others shy away. But eventually, you discovered that you were simply in the wrong environments, with emotionally shallow people who couldn't operate on your frequency. After the change, you'll stop apologizing for being exactly who you are. You'll stop trying to be softer, easier, more palatable to people who will never truly appreciate you. You'll understand that your depth isn't a flaw. It's your unique signature in the universe. And that the right people will be attracted to exactly what you've always tried to hide. Your professional future will also change dramatically. Transformed Scorpios can no longer do superficial or meaningless work. You'll seek and find ways to use your unique gifts in ways that truly impact, whether through healing, transformation, in-depth research, soul-touching art, or any area where you can delve into the depths and bring hidden treasures to the surface. You'll discover your ability to influence and transform others in ways you never imagined. Because Scorpios who have experienced death and rebirth carry a wisdom about transformation that's conveyed not just through words, but through presence. People will feel that you know the dark places they're afraid to go, and that you've come back alive, and this will give them the courage to face their own shadows. But in the future, you also learned something fundamental. Not everyone is ready for profound transformation. And you can't force anyone to awaken, to evolve, to face their own depths before they're ready. You'll learn to discern who truly wants to grow and who just likes the idea of growing while remaining exactly the same. This ability to discern will save you a lot of suffering, because the current you still tries to save people who don't want to be saved, still investing energy in those unwilling to do the real work of transformation. But the future, you has already understood that your energy is too precious to be wasted on someone who doesn't value the gift of having a Scorpio genuinely interested in your evolution. Financially, your life will change because you'll stop accepting less than you deserve. Scorpio has a complex relationship with money and material power, sometimes rejecting it because they find it superficial, sometimes clinging excessively for reasons of control. But in the future, you've found balance. You've understood that material abundance is a tool, not an identity, and that you can pursue prosperity without losing your depth or selling yourself short to values you don't respect. You'll develop a healthy relationship with power in general. You'll stop oscillating between relinquishing all power to avoid becoming controlling and trying to control everything out of fear of vulnerability. You'll find the middle ground where you can be powerful without being oppressive, vulnerable without being weak, profound without being destructive. Your physical body will also change after the transformation, not necessarily in appearance, but in the way you inhabit it. Scorpio tends to live so much in the mind and emotions that it sometimes disconnects from the physical. But in the future, you'll learn that the body is a temple, not a prison. That taking care of your physical body isn't vanity. It's honoring the vehicle that carries your intense soul through this existence. You'll develop rituals that honor both body and spirit. You'll learn that transformation doesn't just happen psychologically, it also happens in your cells, in your posture, in the way you breathe and move through the world. You'll discover that some physical pain you carried was a manifestation of unprocessed emotions. And when you finally allowed complete emotional transformation, your body also freed itself. Your intimate relationships will reach depths you never knew were possible. Because transformed Scorpios aren't afraid of true intimacy, the kind that goes far beyond the physical and touches on the fusion of souls. You'll find or attract someone who can dive as deep as you, who doesn't shy away from intensity, who sees your capacity for obsessive love not as a flaw, but as a rare gift. Or perhaps you'll discover that you prefer periods of deep solitude to continue your inner work. And that's okay too, because in the future, you'll no longer need external validation to feel complete. You've learned that chosen solitude is different from imposed solitude, and that sometimes being alone is necessary to process transformations so profound that another person would only hinder the process. Spiritually, you will open yourself to dimensions of existence that previously seemed impossible. Scorpio has a natural capacity for the mystical, for the occult, for communication with planes beyond the physical, but many Scorpios block these gifts for fear of what they might discover. In the future, you no longer have this fear. You have fully embraced your perceptive powers and developed a conscious relationship with invisible forces that have always been trying to communicate. You'll discover that you have intuitive abilities far beyond what you imagined. You'll have prophetic dreams with increasing frequency. You'll know things about people and situations without anyone telling you. You'll sense the energies of environments and people with frightening precision. And instead of trying to rationalize or ignore these gifts, you'll learn to use them consciously. But with these increased powers also comes increased responsibility. In the future, you understand that seeing truths others don't see doesn't give you the right to use that information manipulatively. Having power over others, and you will, because transformed Scorpio is magnetic and influential, requires you to be impeccable in how you use that power. You will become a keeper of secrets, a natural confidant for people who feel they can trust you with their darkest parts. And this is both an honor and a burden. Because you will carry other people's stories and pain. You will witness others' transformations, and you need to have a strong enough inner structure to not be contaminated by the shadows others share with you. Scorpio, the change you are experiencing will teach you something fundamental about death and rebirth. It will show you that you need not fear the end of things, because every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. That every death is merely a transformation of form, never a destruction of essence. That you can go through 1,000 symbolic deaths in this life and always be reborn stronger, wiser, and more profound. You will develop a deep peace that comes from having traversed your own inner hells and emerged alive. A quiet confidence in your ability to survive anything because you have already survived ego death multiple times. A certainty that no matter what life brings, you have the inner resources to transform poison into medicine, pain into wisdom, darkness into light. And this peace isn't passivity or resignation. It's absolute power. It's knowing that you can enter any situation, no matter how challenging, and not just survive, but use it as a catalyst for further transformation, further evolution, and deeper understanding. In the future, you're no longer afraid of your own intense emotions. You no longer try to control or repress them. You've learned that Scorpio emotions, however intense, are valuable information about what's happening at deeper levels. That anger can fuel necessary change. That profound sadness can open portals of compassion. That intense passion can be channeled into creating beauty and transformation. You'll learn to ride the emotional waves instead of being swept away by them. You'll understand that you are not your emotions. You are the consciousness that observes, feels, processes, and transforms them. And this understanding will give you a freedom you've never experienced before. Prepare now for this future, not by trying to control the process of change, but by surrendering to it completely. Let the old version of you die without resistance. Let structures that no longer serve you crumble. Let relationships, situations, and identities you've outgrown dissolve naturally. And amidst the chaos of transformation, hold fast to the certainty that on the other side lies a version of you more powerful than you can imagine right now. A version that looks back on this moment of fear and confusion and feels profound gratitude for having the courage to let it happen. A version that knows it was worth every second of discomfort, every moment of fear, every feeling of falling apart. Your future has already begun. The change is already happening. You are no longer who you were 6 months ago. And 6 months from now, you will look back and not recognize the person reading this right now. Because Scorpio transformation is not gradual. It is complete revolution. It is total death and absolute rebirth. Prepare yourself not by accumulating external resources, but by strengthening your internal resources. Your ability to feel deeply without being destroyed by intensity. Your ability to see hidden truths without losing yourself in cynicism. Your power to transform yourself and consequently transform everything around you. The future that awaits you is both terrifying and magnificent. It's lonely in some ways because few can operate at the depths you'll reach, but it's also deeply connecting because you'll find your tribe, those rare individuals who aren't afraid to dive into the abyss. Share in the comments. No need to explain details, just acknowledge that you're in the process. Your courage in naming your transformation may be exactly what another Scorpio needs to embrace their own change. Subscribe to the channel because your process of death and rebirth deserves to be accompanied and honored. You'll need reminders that discomfort is temporary, but transformation is permanent. You'll need guidance on how to navigate the most intense phases. You'll need validation that what you're feeling is real and important. Turn on notifications to receive content that will support you through each stage of this powerful transformation. Your future is waiting. The most powerful version of you already exists and is calling. The change has already begun. Now you just need to have the courage to let it happen completely.